Oh boy. It has been, man, it has been one of those. It's been a mad 16 or so hours. Thereabouts. 20 or so hours, really. More than that. It's been mental. Honestly, it has been mental. We gotta unpack what happened last night. Let's just have a listen, make sure this sounds okay. Yep, sound is A-okay. People, what happened last night? Watching it live, I like watching it live and I like doing an immediate reaction post-fight for a variety of reasons. But I like to react immediately because you've really had a chance to just assess the situation then and there. You're giving your thoughts in that moment. It's good in that sense. But looking at it the next day, I couldn't, that performance from Joshua was, honestly, that was shocking. I don't know how he writes that wrong. And I've done a video I haven't uploaded it yet, but I've done a video already kind of going over what I think is next for Anthony Joshua and stuff like that. But the reality is, a loss like that, that is something that is going to take a massive amount to come back from. It really, truly is. Like, a loss of that magnitude, a loss as devastating as that, to be knocked out badly in front of 90-odd thousand fans. I don't know how you come back from that. And it's really crazy to me that Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua are even considering going ahead with this rematch. Now, that's what they say now, but will they, when push comes to shove, after a week or so, when they've had a chance to watch the fight, reassess it, and then obviously see how Joshua's feeling, will he go ahead with the rematch? That is the question. To be honest with you, if he does decide to carry on his career, you could make the strong argument that the rematch really is the only thing for him. If you think about it in that context, because he's going on 35 next month, he doesn't have 2 years to be able to go pick himself up, reassess, and have a year or two to recoup. It really is a case of what do you do? And it's going to be hard to get through to all these comments. There's already 80 people in the building. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Evening to JD, evening to Ben. I'm sure AJ can come back from, I'm not sure AJ can come back from this mentally. What I do know is that AJ should have performances way better than that. His left hand was by his chest the entire night. I'm going to hopefully do during the week a film study of this fight. I'm not going to go through the whole fight because it'll be flipping hour-long video. But I'm going to try and get like a 15 to 20 minute film study of this fight in, because when you watch the fight back, honestly, there's just the mistakes that Joshua made were from the get-go. Honestly, from the get-go, they were just he's always done this, but it was really bad in this fight when he throws that jab. So you're jabbing with Daniel Dubois. And his jab is faster, it's more powerful. And he's holding his hands up like this. Yours are down like that. His jab is going there and coming back. Hands are straight up. Your hands are like that. You're jabbing up and then bringing it right back down as if to say, come on, here it is. And of course, he was open to it. He was so upright. I was watching Del Boy, Blue Collar Sports video on Anthony Joshua. And he's of the opinion, and shout out, we will read the super chat. Of course, thank you to Adam for the 10 quid, man. Appreciate it. Man, that's my London rent is pretty much paid now. I appreciate that, man. Evening, my 2 cents. When have you ever seen someone bully Joshua like that? Never. Dubois employed a game plan that was never used on Joshua. No one has ever thrown the kitchen sink at him. And that's a very good point. I think a lot of fighters have been wary to do that. Even Andy Ruiz, when it was apparent he had him out there, he was very cautious about really stepping on the gas. Vladimir Klitschko, I fully believe that if he had stepped on the gas more and just gone for broke in the fight when he had Joshua hurt, he probably would have won that fight. Dubois was the only guy, but we say that approach. Dubois has always been like that. He's always been someone who he looks to use his physical strength. He looks to overwhelm opponents early. Do you remember him when he fought Rajvan Kajanu? And Kajanu's not that good, but he's about 6'8", 240 or so pounds. And Dubois just went in there and just straight manhandled him. That's what he likes to do, Daniel Dubois. He likes to get in and just try and ragdoll and bully you. That's what he tries to do. Now, he's improved over the years with it. He's added the jab. The jab's always been there, but he's really using it a lot lately. And he's refined this game a lot, particularly under Don Charles and his dad. And now he's just a more refined version of what he was a couple of years ago. There is obviously improvements there. And he went in and did it against Joshua, and Joshua just unraveled very quickly. AJ was talking about, I did see that. I dare to say he did a demolition job than Speedy Gone Usyk. Oh, he did a much better job than Alexander Usyk, there's no question. But we have to say as well, Alexander Usyk, I mean, what do we need to say about Usyk? He's beaten Joshua back-to-back. He's beaten Fury and Dubois, all of whom are staking their claim to be the next best. And Alexander Usyk is just there like the final boss. Just, yes, my work is done. It's AJ, man. AJ didn't look himself in the ring walk. I thought he was looking very composed and very assured. But look, at the end of the day, people do it all the time. It's very easy to put on a facade and appear outwardly confident when internally you're just like, what's going on here? You know? So, yeah, in the ring on fight night, he looked a shell of himself, like a fish out of water. And I wonder, and I just speculate, him being over there in Saudi Arabia, I don't want to say outside of his comfort. Yeah, it is. Well, it is and it isn't. But him being over there in Saudi Arabia, yes, they're his shows, right? But it's nowhere near as lively. The fans, you're not getting as many fans. And it's just different. You're over there in Saudi Arabia. It's very different from the UK. You're not dealing with all the, PR, or very little anyway. And Joshua seems happy enough there. I wonder, look, obviously the clever matchmaking, they put on Oliver. They obviously fought Francis Ngannou, which was a gimmick fight. Joshua even said that. But I wonder if, mixed with the matchmaking, him being a little bit more comfy over there in Saudi Arabia had anything to do with it. And now he's back in the UK, 90-odd thousand, Wembley Stadium, and it's like, oh wow, the pressure really is, it's really, really on. And you just couldn't hack it, and look, as I said, if you told me before the fight, listen, Dubois is going to win. Is he? Yeah, he's going to stop Anthony Joshua. I would have said, yeah, okay, yeah, it's perfectly reasonable. But in the manner he did, no, mental. Honestly, it absolutely is mental. I just remembered I need to give that super chat a super like as well. I forgot you can do that when you're signed in. So boom, there you go, my man. There you go. Why did AJ come in heavy? How many times have we seen him come in heavy and be clumsy and slow and pay for it? How did he do this based on his previous failures? It's a good point. Now, AJ, his weight over the last year has been consistently in the 250s, 250 to 255. In fact, it's gradually come down. Now, I'm someone who's always felt that Joshua's best weight is him in the 240s, preferably the low 240s. I think that Joshua is one of these guys who has bought into this bigger is better. You often hear it with people where they're like, oh, you're too light, you need to be heavier, you'll have your strength, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And I genuinely don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. I don't think it's a good idea. And I think that didn't help Anthony Joshua, but I think that when you look at the fight again, the writing for me was on the wall from the first round. I think if Joshua was in the 240s, it wouldn't have made a difference. I'm also very sad for Ben Davison, who I like. Do you think a loss like this will impact the Ben Davison team? You know what? If there's one thing I really don't like about modern boxing is when a fighter loses and instantly the trainer is the one who gets ridiculed and get blamed. Oh, that trainer's no good. Oh, he's this and he's that. Listen, a trainer will have many, 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 many fighters over the course of his career. Many of them. And shout out to Ben. How are you, my friend? If the rematch happens, it doesn't happen, who will Dubois fight next? I would say give him a crack at Joseph Parker. That's what I would say, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. But going back to what Jurgen Thomas was saying about Ben Davison, listen, Ben Davison is a good trainer. I think that what he's done with Anthony Joshua, he's definitely hitting harder. He's taking more chances. I agree with what Dubois said, Blue Collar Sport, that the best version he's seen of Anthony Joshua since the Ruiz loss was the Joshua under Robert Garcia. Now, obviously, he lost that fight still to Alexander Usyk, but yes, it was a much better performance, and he did look okay. I think with Ben Davison, he's hitting harder. He's definitely refined that element of the game, but there is still a lot of mistakes going on in there for Anthony Joshua, as was obvious and evident last night. And big up to MBG. I hope Ben Davison doesn't get ridiculed for it, because he is a good trainer. I believe he is. I think that he gets a lot of criticism. I don't think he does himself any favours by sticking his neck in it a little bit and sticking his nose in it when he goes on camera sometimes. But look at the job he's done on people like Lee Wood. I think he's done a very good job on Lee Wood. I thought he did a very good work with Josh Taylor, who hasn't looked the same since leaving Ben Davison. But just because you have success with one, you're not going to have success with another. Andy Lee never won a world title with Emmanuel Stewart. I think, was it Darnell Nicholson? Was a 90s heavyweight. He was, I think, a Kronk fighter. Who remembers him? You know, you can have the greatest trainer in the world, but if the fighter isn't good enough, well, what's good? It doesn't matter. And in this era of boxing, we do seem to be very much in the blame the trainer sense. You know, fighter goes in and makes mistakes. Well, is that the fighter's fault? It's hardly the trainer's fault. With these cash cows badly beaten, which big name do Matchroom actually have? Now, that's a good question. I was thinking about that today. Joshua was the guy. He was the guy with Matchroom. Conor Benn, we don't know where he stands. We genuinely don't know where he stands. And his ceiling, I think, is low. If you look at Johnny Fisher, again, I think his ceiling is pretty low. Love your content. If AJ was to win the rematch, where would it rank in immediate rematch victories? For me, he stands more chance than Fury with Usyk. I don't see either of them winning, to be honest with you. I think that Fury against Usyk, I think it's going to be much the same. Might be a bit more devastating. And I think that people need to look at that fight. And I'll give you an example, right? When Dillian Whyte got badly knocked out by Povetkin, I said that, okay, Dillian Whyte's going to win that rematch. He got badly knocked out, yeah, in the 5th round, actually, as well. He got badly knocked out, but I thought he'll win that rematch. He made a mistake. He paid for it. But he was on top in that fight. He was winning it comfortably. He'll win that rematch. And he did. I thought with Anthony Joshua against Ruiz, I said he'll win that rematch. He made a mistake. He paid for it. But he knows what he needs to do. And he did it. In this fight right here, it's like you got beaten from pillar to post. You got bullied to high heaven. And I don't see how, in God's name, I mean, I genuinely don't see how you're going to come back from this. And it's the nature of it. It's not like it was a one-punch knockout. But it wasn't like, again, a Dillian Whyte, where it's a one-punch knockout in a fight that you were winning comfortably. This was a demolition job. I mean, Anthony Joshua, that's the worst beating of his career by a country mile. I was saying pre-fight that coming into the fight, Dubois was coming off 2 great wins, whereas AJ coming in and fought 4 tomato cans. And that's a fair assessment. That genuinely is a fair assessment. The fights that if AJ is intended to stay on, then I think that if he doesn't take the rematch, maybe Dillian Whyte, maybe just try and see what life you can get out of that old cat. You know? A little rubber match in the O2. And that might be listen, if I was managing AJ, right, if I was, say AJ came, I know he's not got it, but let's say he came to me for advice and said, what should I do? I would turn around to him and I would say, mate, you've made a killing in this sport. I mean, the money you've made, your kids, you're talking generation after generation are never going to have to work a day in their life. You're a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. You have great wins on your resume. Do you want to finish with a loss? or do you want one more win? If you want one more win, try and get a day in the O2 against someone like a Dylan White, and apologies if you can hear the dog barking. Get a day out in the O2 against someone like a Dylan White and sail off into the sunset. Or if the mind really isn't with it, then sail off into the sunset now. Either way, it's over. I don't see you coming back from that. He's 35. He's not exactly in his 20s. Yeah, if we were talking about Anthony, if this was Anthony Joshua 30, 31 years old, I would turn around and say, yeah, look, it's going to take, and even then I'd be saying, look, it's going to take some serious coming back from, like serious coming back from. But it's not impossible. It's not inconceivable he can do it. And shout out to Lee from Inside the Distance if you haven't already. Give that channel a follow, please. Inside the Distance. Lee has a great channel up there. We're trying to get him to 1,000 subs. If he was in his 20s, I'd say, look, it's a hard comeback. It's a really, really hard comeback. It's a long road ahead, but you could do it. You're in your mid-30s. Like, I would be stumped, amazed. Tyson Fury came back from all he had to come back from. But again, he was in his 20s at the time. Late 20s. Yeah, he would have been in his 20s, late 20s. But he still had time on his side. It's not the case now. You know, with Anthony Joshua, he's in his mid-30s. I just don't see him coming through. Oh, and by the way, with 280 in the building, and I've only got 37 likes. That should be illegal. 37 likes. So if you haven't already, do please hit the like button. And also, by the way, if you haven't, do please consider hitting subscribe as well. If you're new, if this is your first time listening, and if you're just tuning in, you think this guy, I like what he's saying, you know? I like what he's saying. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. A big up to Joe Stunner Boxing. Hello, G-Man, what a shocker. I think the manner of it has left a lot of us shell-shocked rather than Dubois' actual win. Yeah, Dubois seems more just like going through the motions, like, yeah, I won the fight. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. You know, where we're all just like, what the hell? We're all just stunned. And I want to go back to something that you said to us there, Joe Stunner, as well, the other day or yesterday. Fights like this is why we love boxing. Fights like this is why we love this sport. Because we just witnessed an upset of sorts. We've literally just seen a one-sided drubbing. But it was so shocking and just so out of the blue, everything. All of us are just, and pretty much all of us got our predictions wrong, by the way. I know Joe Stunner and Lee, we all got our predictions way wrong. But we're all still just, after what happened last night, we're all shell-shocked, in awe. And boxing is the only sport that can do that. If you think about it, boxing is genuinely the only sport that can do that to you. It's brilliant. Team Batman was at Wembley. The atmosphere was unbelievable. Do you know, one thing about doing the watch-alongs is I obviously am going to turn the sound down. And big up to MVG. I need to do a video on that. But what is the deal with Yard? And listen, I'm going to go out and say it here, right? If Anthony Yard had been in there with Joshua Buatsi last night, I think Anthony Yard would have won the fight. At his best. At his best. I think Yard would have won the fight. Joshua Buatsi versus Willie Hutchinson was a good scrap. I enjoyed it. I still cannot understand for the life of me how one judge scored that fight in favour of Willie Hutchinson. I mean, that is beyond shocking that a judge watched that fight straight-faced and thought Willie Hutchinson deserved to win. That is madness. Madness. Buatsi gets the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev. When AJ caught Dubois at the end, he was never buzzed. Dubois knew where he was. Yeah, he just backed up. He normally has a tendency to do that. And AJ, you see, again, what AJ was doing in there was so bizarre. Like sticking his tongue out at times when he'd been stunned, and as soon as he stunned Dubois, he just went charging, like literally, right? AJ, one of the complaints we had about him even a year ago was how gun shy he was and how he didn't want to let those shots go. And the one time he has success, he goes in, no regard for what his opponent has coming back, in spite of the fact he'd been dropped and hurt several times in this fight. And he goes in with a live opponent and walks onto a big, like, honestly, it was just, when you watched it, you were just like, what the hell? And I saw someone earlier in the chat comment about Tony Bellew. Listen, I seen what Bellew said on this, and Bellew, according to Bellew, Anthony Joshua is invincible. And, you know, he should never have lost any of his fights, this, that, and the other. He's been saying stuff like, well, if Joshua just lets his hands go, it's like, mate, you do realize, right, Joshua will not let his hands go against someone like Dubois because he hits too flipping hard. And he's able to see what AJ is doing. He's going to give Dubois more opportunities to hit him. And you could say, well, you know, oh, he could knock Dubois out. Look, Joshua landed with a good right hand. Dubois just backed up, and he was able to walk Joshua onto a shot. Every single time Dubois landed a remotely flush shot, Joshua was either in trouble or he was on the deck. And you forget, he's in his mid-30s. He's taken a beating. There is no way. It's not, like, how can you turn around and just say, throw more punches? If it was that easy, everyone would do it, wouldn't they? Joshua's always been psychologically odd, a complicated cat. Last night was very strange indeed. I'd say there's almost certainly no way back for him. His age is a major factor. Dubois is not articulate, but he is an intelligent fighter. You get that impression with Dubois. When he's in the ring, I mean, he doesn't really show it outside the ring, but when he's in the ring, he knows what's up. He knows what's going on there. Yeah, I knew when they said split, I was like, they're not going to rob Buatsi. It was just too one-sided. It was just too obvious he'd won it to go any other way. So I knew he'd got the decision. But I was just like, how do you even arrive at split decision, having viewed that? That's kind of how I knew they would give it to Buatsi, because I was thinking, there's always one judge who's just absolutely stark raving mad, who will give it to him, who will give it to the other fighter. Mate, literally, I was thinking the exact same thing. And he was wearing black. Normally when you wear black, if you've got a little bit of, you know, timber on you, the black will disguise it. I was looking at Fury, whenever they were on him, and I was like, he's looking heavy. He's looking heavy. So you're not the only one. I was thinking that as well a few times last night. I was looking at him and I was like, And Usyk looks normal. Seeing him in the interviews with Adam Smith, looks as normal as you would expect with Alexander Usyk, consummate pro. But yeah, with Tyson Fury, I was noticing that as well. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he didn't, you know, dress up in a suit or something like that. Because at least if you're wearing black, and even then, you could see he had a bit of timber on him. If you're wearing a suit, you look like, you know, the Kingpin from Spider-Man. I will read your, I'll read that as well, because I clicked on it. JD, big up. Fury weight, I'd say 290. I'd say 300. I'd say 300, closer to that. Big up to Round Table Entertainment for the 10 quid. And yes, Usyk intimidating McGregor was hilarious. Like, Usyk is a character. He is genuinely a character. Like, he is something else. I will read your comment and give me 2 secs. If we scrap Hearn's wishful thinking about a rematch, let's hope he avoids that. Dubois versus Parker, AJ versus Hrgovic and Zhang versus Bakoli early next year. Where do Matchroom go from here? Listen, I wouldn't pick AJ over Hrgovic after that performance. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. And I do think that Hrgovic probably does hit hard enough, especially if that chin's been dented, because a beating like that will dent your chin 100%. I'd give Hrgovic a good shot. I probably would edge Dubois over Parker. You know, I would, because Parker's been winning, but he's not been winning handsomely, to say the least. Zhang Bakoli, I mean, that one right there, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I would, and then Zhilei Zhang obviously has called out Daniel Dubois. In-house fight, both with Queensbury. I don't know who I take between Zhilei Zhang and Bakoli. Part of me says Bakoli, but then it's like that power. If they did, I would be like, that would be a card to make. That'd be a great Riyadh season show. And maybe put Deontay, hey, look, do Deontay Wilder versus Ngannou, main event. That would be a hell of a show. Hell of a show. Where did Matchroom go from here? they're very lucky that they've done this deal with the Saudis and Queensbury. Because obviously Turkey is Frank Warren's guy, so they're very lucky in that regard. Because if this was Eddie Hearn, and he's just kind of, he's there, but he's not officially with the Saudis. He's just kind of being, we're having you on these shows, but you're not with us. I'd say they'd be in deep trouble. The fact that they have those Saudi connections, they can still sign some good fighters. They can still get new fighters. Apparently, Eddie Hearn is going to be signing some new prospects and stuff like that I would imagine, from the GB. But the stable is really thin in terms of fighters who could go places. I think it's really thin. I mean, Joshua was pretty much done. Ben, even if he fights again, his ceiling is pretty low. I don't think he's going to be a superstar. Johnny Fisher, to his credit, Johnny Fisher, I think, knows himself that he's got a ceiling. And then really, who else does Eddie Hearn have? Sonny Edwards, Galal Yafai, not really. In the States, it's very different. You've got the likes of Bar Rodriguez, so very different in the States. But, in the UK, I mean, who is there? Sonny Edwards, Galal Yafai. What's going on with Felix Cash? He lost and he's unreliable. What else do you have? Jack Cattrall. When Eddie Hearn is trying to sell Jack Cattrall, it's bad. When they're actually trying, no disrespect, but Jack Cattrall could put an insomniac to sleep in and out of the ring. When you're trying to sell him, it's really like, is this the best we have now? Really? And I don't mean disrespect to Jack Cattrall, but like, that stable is just so thin on the ground. And I don't know what he does. He's let heavyweights like Alexander Usyk. He's let heavyweights like Derek Chisora go. I don't know what to do. Silly Billy. I'm surprised he said Martin Bakole is the best heavyweight in the world. I would have thought he would have said Tyson Fury is. Because Silly Billy is a big Tyson Fury fanboy. I know Hrgovic would be favourite, and you wouldn't be wrong making him favourite after that performance. I know you can say it's very reactionary of a boxing fan to be like, oh, he had one bad performance. Yo, shout out to Motive Media. Shout out to you, my man. Once again, thank you for having me in the few of the videos, man. I appreciate that. Sometimes they're in my subfeed, I'm always looking, I'm like, am I in this one? And it's like, yes, I love it. I appreciate that, man. You're the man, G-man. Bakole beat Zhang, and then Dubois versus Bakole. Chaos. You literally summed it up. Absolute chaos. Bakole versus Dubois. Neither guy would take. Do you remember like when Bakole was unbeaten? It was about 2018. It was just before he fought Michael Hunter. Dubois just fought DL Jones. I think that was his name. And it was Bakole fought him as well. And Bakole did a better job by all accounts. And there was all this talk of Bakole versus Dubois, who's going to do it? And then Bakole lost. And it just kind of faded into the wilderness. But I remember that point in the UK when Bakole was really being amped up and talked about. He had that loss. And like, he's come back a treat. That would be carnage. Two big punchers. Oh, that would be, man. Honestly, like, that would be something else. I'd love it. I'd absolutely love that. But we got Motive Media in the building. Big up to those guys. I remember watching Motive Media years ago, and it's crazy. It's like, I was even texting one of my friends, like, he'd be a big kind of boxing fan as well. He's actually go with me to a few shows if we ever get a chance to go to them. And he'd be the same. He'd watch like Motive Media and Boxing Legends TV back in the day. It was like, I was showing him, I was like, look, skip to 9 minutes. Look who's on there. I was like, that's bad. Yeah, Dubois versus, is an eruption of the magnitude not seen since Vesuvius destroyed Pompeii. Mount Vesuvius destroyed Pompeii. That would be, and literally that's a good analogy actually, by the way. Mount Vesuvius destroying Pompeii. You'd be talking about a 300-pound Bakole versus a 250-pound Dubois. Both throw a lot of punches. Both don't take a step back. Both have just dynamite in their fists. I would say it would be reminiscent of Foreman Lyle. I don't remember that full. Obviously, I wasn't born. I don't think a lot of people were born at the time. But have you ever seen Foreman Lyle? It's just two big, strong guys knocking lumps out of one another. That's literally what it is. And it was an absolute brilliant fight. Atelma versus Dubois. I've heard people ask about that. And Daz won 40 quid on last night's fight. There you go, man. He's sharing it around, man. He's sharing it around, man. I remember doing the watch along last night, and a lot of people were leaving comments saying they put some money on Dubois. A lot of people were leaving comments. Now, I even think someone said you could get Dubois at like 7-2 on for a knockout. And there was people saying they were putting like 30, 40 quid on him. So I'd say, yeah, Adam won 90 quid. So I'd say a lot of people are waking up this morning with a nice little, it might not be life-changing, but better to have 90 quid sitting and watching a boxing match than not have it at all. You know? Somebody, oh man, could you imagine someone just randomly said, I'll put 10 quid on Dubois round 5. Just, you know, because they would have got some serious odds on that. Has a lot more experience for some. Oh yeah, someone was asking about Atelma. See, do they need to do that, really? I know they want to try and break Mike Tyson's record. If he gets obliterated by Dubois, they have the luxury that they could actually give him a couple of years to recover. So maybe, but if he takes a shellacking in there, you just put your prospect in who's only 19 and he's got an absolute beating. And you got to bear in mind, right, Mike Tyson won his world title, his WBC title, off Trevor Berbick. I was going to say Trevor Bryan there. He definitely didn't win that. He won it off Trevor Berbick. I would pick Daniel Dubois every day of the week over Trevor Berbick. It's a much tougher fight. Berbick was no good. Bernardo Machado knocked out Trevor Berbick in 90, I think before he even fought Ali in the first round. Do you know what it was, right? It wasn't even that, look, I'm not a big Oasis fan, to be honest with you, but it wasn't even that Oasis were playing. I knew they were playing. Michael Buffer was hyping it up like, oh, we're getting the ring walked, and he's like, there are legends, and then there's Liam Gallagher, and it's just like, really? You had to go and do that, huh? You had to go and do that. Throwing Atelma in with Dubois is ridiculous. I'm not saying he can't win, but why take the risk? I'd say it'd be very unlikely that he'd get the win. Very unlikely. I rate Atelma very highly, but I wouldn't be picking him. No way. And 318 in the building. So if you guys haven't already, please do hit that old like button. And if you're new, if you're one of the 318 in the building who are new, do please consider hitting subscribe. I love seeing those numbers go up. I want to get to 30k as quick as I can. So we're doing well. We're at how many subs are we at now? Actually, we're at 20,424. So you know we're making some inroads there. Let's keep it going. Let's keep the growth going because believe me, I'm working hard enough. I've done already in a video that I haven't uploaded. I have to do a review of the week. I have to do some more reaction videos. So it's a busy, whatever you want to say about YouTube, you can't say your boy doesn't work hard. There's a lot still I have to do. That's why this live is only going to be, we're only going to probably do another 15 or so minutes. I'm going to do probably a 50-minute live because I've got so much flipping stuff to do now this evening. Because between 8 to probably half 8, we'll do a review of the week. Then it's kind of get some boxing news and go over that. So it's a busy day. But I love it when boxing is popping like this. And in 20 days, we have Beterbiev versus Bivol. Now, I'm hoping that I'll be able to do a watch along for that one as well. I'll be in a new flat at the time. There'll be Wi-Fi, but just noise-wise, let's wait. I'm skeptical about how noisy or not noisy it'll be. I'm hoping it won't be too noisy. I'm hoping it'll be all good. So we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, man, it's boxing is popping. And we've got such a good run now between now and the end of the year. We have the Beterbiev Bivol card coming up. We have a few good shows in the UK. We have the Latino show coming up in November. And then we have, obviously, Fury versus Usyk, December 21st. And Tyson Fury against, do you know what, right? Fury versus Joshua was all they really talked about in the build-up to that fight last night. And we know that's what the boxing establishment, let's call it that, want. And a lot of people want that fight because it's a big money fight. And every time we've seen this close to it, something's got in the way. And then it comes down to both guys have to win, and neither guy wins. You know, I said in 2021, when the Tyson Fury, and I'll read that down in a second, when the Fury Joshua negotiations, let's call them, fell apart because of the Court of Arbitration ruling in Wilder's favour, and we knew that within the space of a fortnight, you would have Joshua versus Usyk, and you'd have Fury versus Wilder. I said one of them is going to lose. I said it's never that simple. I said one of them will lose. I don't know which one, but one of them is going to lose. And Joshua lost. And then it became a case of, right, we need to get these, both fighters have to beat their respective fighters. I'm like, one of them will lose sooner or later again, and it's going to push this out and out and out. And that's what keeps happening. A fighter keeps losing. And sorry, I didn't read that super chat. Where are we? Boom. Do you think Dubois reaches Fury Joshua popularity levels? No, I don't, quite frankly. I don't, but Dubois has many big nights ahead of him. I don't know if he'll ever do a night as big as that, but he has many big nights ahead of him. How many fights do you reckon Fury and Usyk have left in them? That's a good question. That's a very good question. I would say that probably Usyk probably has less fights left in him. I'd say he's going to be one and done after this next fight. Depending on how the landscape looks in the heavyweight division, because I'm sure if Fury could see an easy world title, he'd take it and milk it. He would. If he could win a version of a world title and Joshua was still around, they might do it, but it's lost that appeal. But I reckon Fury maybe has another 3 fights left in him. Maybe. The next generation of heavyweights could be interesting. This is the good thing, right? Is that it's sad in a way, because I was thinking about this today. We are coming to the end of this era. And that's sad, because this era has given us so many memories. So many good fights. You know, I remember when Lucas Brown fought Ruslan Shagayev, and that was a really good fight if you've never seen that fight. But I remember the commentators on Box Nation, Barry Jones was commentating on that fight, and he said that people like Shagayev, who would have been in the Klitschko era, they're seen now as the old guard. And at the time, they were mentioning the likes of Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. Obviously, Alexander Usyk was a cruiserweight at the time, but they were mentioning the likes of the big three. They were mentioning Dylan White. They were mentioning all these guys from the new era, as it was at the time. And then you realize how quick time goes. And that new era is now almost the bygone era, if you think about it. And that's just, I still can't really get my head wrapped around that we're nearly done with this era. It's gone so quick. It's crazy. But it's not like the Klitschko era where you're looking and you're thinking, good Lord, who's going to save this division? I genuinely think the division is in very good hands. I think it's in very, very good hands. I think Dubois, Bakadir Jalilov, Anderson will still be useful. I think that Torres is all right, but he might do something. Atelma, for sure. I think that we have, look, they might not have the drawing power that Joshua, Fury, Wilder, White had, but they're not bad fighters. And we say now we don't think they'll have the drawing power. I certainly didn't think Tyson Fury would have the drawing power that he would have. I really didn't. So just because we don't think they might have the drawing power, doesn't necessarily mean they won't. And I for one, am really looking forward to this new era. They're all young, they're all hungry, and, well, we've seen one of the old guard in Anthony Joshua. I mean, someone commented on the post-fight and said, if ever I seen a passing of the torch fight, it was that. And you're right, you're 100%. Mad to think Usyk has beaten Joshua, Fury, and Dubois. And I guarantee you Simon Jordan on TalkSport will just act like Alexander Usyk is an afterthought. Oh, he's an afterthought. Oh, it's this, it's that. Oh, blah, 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 blah. No. Man, Alexander Usyk is the gold standard of the heavyweight division. He came up from cruiserweight, undisputed at cruiserweight, and he's beaten Chisora. Just listen, in Shez Witherspoon out of the equation. Derek Chisora, Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois, Tyson Fury. In 5 fights. I'll just say that again. Chisora, Joshua, Dubois, Fury. And maybe he'll do Fury again. I mean, like, what more do you want? Like, what more do you want from a fighter? And you still get those people like Simon Jordan saying, oh, well, if Fury loses again, how good was Fury? How good is Alexander Usyk then? Maybe that's a better question to ask. Nope, he's never even been knocked down. I know. It's remarkable, really. That shows his defense. I don't be leaving out Shez Witherspoon. All right, we won't leave him out. I blame Hatman for the AJ. No, I don't. And Hatman is as objective as you want to be. I mean, he's criticised AJ plenty, as have I. You know, people will call you, and I've seen it several times, in the same video, on my channel as well, when you're just giving your opinion. And there's no hate or anything like that in it. You're just giving your opinion. You'll have some people calling you an AJ fanboy, and in the same video, they'll call you a hater. There's no middle ground with these guys. You either love me, you're either against me or not. That's how it is with these guys. They just can't see it from objective eyes, where I don't have a horse in the race. I'm delighted Dubois won last night. I'd be delighted for Joshua if he won. I'm delighted I seen a good fight. Do you think Eddie will do the right thing and advise AJ to quit? No. Eddie Hearn is straight in there saying rematch. So Eddie Hearn is like, no, he wants to milk. That cash cow has been milked. There's literally nothing left. But he is gonna keep going. Joshua can't take criticism. He's not a true Brit. He's a fraud. No, I disagree very much with that. I think Joshua, sometimes I think he lets the critics get to him a little bit. And I think he lets the critics who make silly comments. And what I mean by that is, you know, oh, why do you not throw 100 punches around? It's like, because he's not 6 foot tall and 200 pounds. He's 6'6" and 250 pounds. It goes without saying. Talking subscribers, considering your count, established friends, I'm really surprised you don't have 100+K. Well, I'd love to. I'm about 80K off it, man. I'd love to. Dubois in black boots, shorts. He did have a Mike Tyson feel to him, but yeah, no. I do have some good mates in the boxing world. Like, well, Ade doesn't even have 100,000. Hatman doesn't have 100,000. So we're all, boxing's a niche sport, unfortunately. We all love it, but it's a niche sport. So, like, for me to have 20K subs in the grand scheme of things, it's tiny. But in a boxing sense, that's pretty good going. You know, that's pretty big. You know, most people would look. I remember I used to look at guys back in the day who had, like, say, 10,000 subs when I only had like 2,000, and being like, could you imagine that? And, you know, now it's like obviously 20K, where the goal is obviously 30K as soon as possible. But look, I know boxing is as I said, it's a niche sport. It's not going to be a quick turnaround. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But we'll get to 100K at some point. Has to. It's given. 314. I'll just ask again, if you haven't already, like that, hit that like button. Hit like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Fight Sport Talk says Frank Warren is going to retire Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn doesn't have the same dog in him that Frank Warren has. And what I mean by that is, Frank Warren is someone who, even when things, because I was actually watching a couple of his old interviews today, Frank Warren's, and he was doing the Box Nation days, and you just look at that and you think to yourself, how the hell did Frank Warren, and he is an underrated promoter, how the hell did he go from those IFL interviews, Renham Steel sponsoring the fights, and on Box Nation, garbage undercards in leisure centres, to now Wembley Stadium, heavyweight champion of the world, an established stable of fighters, and every time Queensberry seemed to go up against Matchroom, it's Queensberry winning. And it's Queensberry winning by an absolute canter. Frank Warren, to turn that around it's remarkable, really. And what I like about Frank Warren has a better eye for talent than Eddie Hearn. And that's a given. He's a much better eye for talent. Frank Warren will be the sort of guy where, I know at one point he probably did, he had to take any fighter. But when you see the fighters he's taken, like Anthony Yard, like Daniel Dubois, Hamza Shiraz, just to name a few, Nick Ball, he's taken them from nowhere. He's seen there's talent there, and he's built them and they've become world champions. Obviously, Anthony Yard hasn't, but he's a very established fighter. Whereas Eddie Hearn, lately, he seems to want these fighters who are amateur. Well, he's always been someone who's gone for an amateur from GB. He's taken them on, and I guess he's hoped for the next AJ. Hasn't happened yet. But then he's looking for fighters like Johnny Fisher, who are just gimmick fighters. It's like, well, they'll sell out the Copper Box, and you'll have a good atmosphere, be a good night, but that's not a long-term investment. You know, Frank Warren is making long-term investments. He's getting fighters like Moses Telma, Nick Ball, Daniel Dubois when they're young, and he's building them the right way. And look at the results. Whereas Eddie Hearn, again, I say he's getting fighters like Johnny Fisher, Ebony Bridges he had once. What? What are you going to do with them? What good are they going to do? You might have 2 years of making some decent money off them, and then they're gone to obscurity. Whereas Frank Warren, he might have 5 years of making very good money out of them. You know, and he's had to wait a little bit longer, but he's still been able to do something. And Frank gives his prospects tough fights. And that was something people criticised him for earlier on, years ago, that he was putting prospects like Zelva Barrett in there with guys like, what was his name, Ronnie Davis, before they were ready. But I think they'll say, like, they learned a lot in those fights, and they came back better fighters. And yeah, Frank is the sort of guy where if he doesn't, Frank will be a bit like Bob Arum in this regard, where if he's looking at a fighter and thinking, right, well, I've got faith in you, but I need to see something. I'm not just going to feed you journeyman after journeyman after journeyman. Here's a step up. Sink or swim. See how you go. He'd be very cutthroat like that. But it's a great way of just weaning out the fighters where it's like, I know it's going to sound real harsh, but you know what I mean? It's like, well, if you're good, you'll beat. Simple as. Whereas with Eddie Hearn, you could see a prospect for the next 3 years just fighting next gen show, next gen show, next gen show, and you're just like, well, what good is that? Just step him up. You know, we hear something like, oh, Johnny Fisher is a world class prospect, world level prospect. Okay, well, what about fighting Moses Telma? No. Well, Moses Telma is only 19 years old. Why not? No. And you say this after fighting flipping Alan Babbage. I mean, that's clever matchmaking, yes, but yeah, Babbage, for God's sake. So Frank Warren, definitely, and you know something, I think with the way Frank Warren and how successful Queensberry have been, and good, and Delicious Ori I don't see much from him. You know, I don't think he's going to do great things as a pro. Eddie Hearn, I'm sure, might sign him. But what's he really, like, I don't see much from Delicious Ori at all. I just think he's a fairly run-of-the-mill heavyweight. He'll probably maybe get the British title level, but that's probably about it. Maybe being a bit hard, maybe a little bit further than that, maybe European, but he ain't going to trouble the big guys. So if Eddie Hearn signs him, all well and good, but I don't see much of, I don't think Delicious Ori has the highest ceiling. And, you know, if you look, if Delicious Ori was on the GB squad, Telma wasn't. But who would you rather have? You'd rather have a Telma, definitely. Much better fighter, much higher ceiling, and younger too. And he's making a name for himself. So Frank Warren is really, and again, I go back to what I said, Frank is taking these guys young. He took Dubois at 19 years old. I think Dubois was, about 19 years of age, and just brought him along. He stepped him up gradually. He put him in with Kevin Johnson after a year. And then he put him in, and he was pro 2 years and he's British champion. That's a good little step up. That's a good little career path he's brought him on. And that's what I like about Warren. Whereas with Eddie Hearn, you could have, like, Felix Cash turned pro in 2016. 2016, he didn't fight for a British title until 2021. That's stupid. What is the point in being pro for 4 years? Take you 4 years to go for there. Yeah, that's an awful name. Honestly, that's an awful name. Have you seen One Night in Mile? No, I haven't. Is it on any kind of platform or anything like that? I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. That'd be a good watch, I'd say, mate. That'd be a real good watch. But people, I've just gone over the 50-minute mark. And I did say I could, because I'm going to be a busy G tonight. Seriously, I'm going to be mad busy. I have a lot of recording to do and a lot to get finished. So I'm going to call it here. There's still 275 in the building. If you haven't already, do please hit subscribe. If I can get another live in this week, I will. I'd actually hope to. I might see if one of the lads is free to hop on with me. If you like the content, if you're new, hit subscribe. Might as well do an hour. I could, but I do have a lot of stuff. I have a lot more recording I need to get done. And I just want to I don't want to do it bad, but I want to just get going and just into the zone. Just shoot ahead with it. So I'm going to call it here. Like button in or on the way out. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. I like seeing these numbers go up. What can I say? I've got 100 subs in a day. So I'd like to keep that trend going. Let's do it. So people, I'll leave it there. Have a great evening. I will probably chat to you tomorrow for review of the week. That'll probably be the next vid you get, most likely, unless something big comes up. But I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace, people.